Hey guys, it's Bill coming back at you with another video! Today I'm back, I'm excited, I'm pumped up. Hopefully everyone's doing well, practicing self-care, not letting one thought, one situation, one person take them outside of what they know to be true, and you're doing the next right thing, doing everything that you can to build yourself up, not reflecting on the things you're not doing, but reflecting on the things that you are doing, becoming the best possible version of yourself. And I know 19 people did just that, because that's how many people went in the exam, kicked it directly in the chest, and got the job done. And a lot of people on this list were doubting themselves, weren't even sure if they should even go into the exam. Their test scores weren't as high as they should be, or they were doubting themselves, beating themselves up, tearing themselves up, wanting to leave the profession, but they doubled down, did the next right thing, and did everything that they could inside of their control, and win the exam, kicked it directly in the chest to get the job done. And they are as follows: Caitlin M, Claudia B, Jennifer N, Susan M, Star W, Russ F, TSC, Victor K, Nina D, Elisa S, Jessica OS, Stephanie M, Adriana C, Marisol FS, Shauna F, Chrisonia B, Stephanie P, Sadie K, and Nina WB. And I'm so excited, man, because so many people on that list, like I said, were tearing themselves down, beating themselves up. They're like, you know what? I don't even know if I should go in the exam, Phil. I'm scared. I failed the exam before. I'm not even sure if this is meant for me, or man, my friends have said this, or man, this other person said this. And that's what I'm telling you is anytime that you get input or feedback inside of your mind, you really want to analyze it and dissect it and do everything that you can to understand whether it's going to be helpful or harmful for you. And that's what I'm telling you is you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And if you want to rep and rock with me as well, the easiest way to do so is to be in the Sunday study groups or the thought-provoking Thursdays. And the next Sunday study groups are as follows: 9-10 acronym and practice questions. It is going to be going over the acronyms: safety, feelings, assess, refer, educate, advocate, facilitate, and intervene. Going through the 6-step process that I recommend every single person to keep in mind as they're going through the exam, and then going through difficult practice questions. And as I always say, do not come into the session expecting to get every single question correct, but come into the session understanding with an open mind, because the questions I construct tend to be more difficult than the ones on the actual exam, and people don't believe me until they get into these sessions. So that's what I'm telling you. Don't beat yourself up, but build yourself up to become the best possible version of yourself. The next one after that is 9-17 community intervention. So going over the types of advocacy, going over the steps of community organizing, going over case management, and not ways to memorize anything, but ways to be able to recognize and apply it to go in the exam, kick it directly in the chest to get the job done, and then going over practice questions related to those. The next one after that is 9-24 DSM-5 adult. So going over the personality disorders, going over schizophrenia spectrum, and the differences between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 disorders, going over the medications, and then going through practice questions related to those, and not ways to memorize anything, but ways to be able to recognize and apply it to go in the exam, kick it directly in the chest to get the job done. The Sunday study groups are on 7 p.m. Eastern time until they kick us out. They can't kick us out. I'm the host. They traditionally are going to be 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours long, with a question and answer segment at the tail end of them. If you're not able to attend live, or if you're not able to attend the entire thing, the sessions are recorded, so you're able to review it back at your own pace and your own leisure. The next thought-provoking Thursdays, and people are like, Phil, what are the thought-provoking Thursdays? The thought-provoking Thursdays are sessions where I go over strictly practice questions, application and reasoning type questions, and not ways to memorize anything, but ways to be able to actually understand how to break it down and how and why you're getting to the answer choices. So it goes through strictly practice questions, and then we'll have a question and answer segment at the tail end of the session. So the session traditionally is going to be 4 to 4.5 to 5 hours long. And again, if you're not able to attend the entire time, the session is recorded that you can review at your own pace and your own leisure. The next thought-provoking Thursday sessions are 9-14 and 9-21. And if you want to rep and rock with me, or you want to register for those sessions, you can send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, or click the link down below in the description, which is the view more under the title, and it'll take you to my calendar. Or if you want to go to my calendar directly, it's fillinthegaps.as.me, as well as I do still offer individual tutoring sessions. So if you want to rep and rock with me on an individual basis, we can go over anything that you want, practice questions, particular topics, you're feeling anxious and nervous about the exam, etc. And the individual tutoring sessions, they tend to book out 1 to 2 weeks in advance, so keep that in mind. But if you want any information related to that, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, or click the link down below in the description, which is the view more under the title, and it'll send you to my calendar, or go to my calendar at fillinthegaps.as.me, as well as the next one-day course is going to be on September 30th. And the one-day course has been the most successful thing that I've ever done because it gives you the most amount of information, as well as gives you the most amount of time, as well as gives you the most difficult practice questions that it can muster up, because it's more of an investment on your end. And if you're like, Phil, what is the one-day course? The one-day course is a session that starts at 11 a.m. Eastern time, and it goes 12, 13, sometimes 14 hours long, and gives you information, not to memorize anything, but ways to build yourself up, to go in the exam, kick it directly in the chest, to get the job done. It goes over the tips that I find most helpful for people to keep in mind as they're preparing for, as well as taking the exam. The most common reasons why people fail, because what better way to learn what not to do than to learn from people that have failed the exam, have shared their feedback, and have identified different ways to go in the exam, kick it directly in the chest, to get the job done. A handful of topics: subpoena versus court order, operant conditioning. We'll go over the steps of community organizing, the personality disorders, the schizophrenia spectrum, bipolar 1 versus bipolar 2 disorders. We'll go over the medications, the acronym: safety, feelings, assess, refer, educate, advocate, facilitate, and intervene. We'll also go over the 6-step process that I recommend every single person to keep in mind as they're breaking down the questions. And then we'll go through 25 difficult practice questions. And as I always say, do not come in the session expecting to get every single thing correct or memorize anything. But come in the session being able to learn with an open mind and understand how and why you're getting the answer choices that you are. So that way you can build yourself up, not be perfect, but continue progressing, become the best possible version of yourself, to go in the exam, kick it directly in the chest, to get the job done. And if you're not able to attend the one-day course live, or if you're not able to stay the entire time, the session is going to be recorded, so you're able to review it at your own pace and your own leisure. If you want any information related to that, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, or click the link down below in the description, which is the view more under the title, and it'll send you to my calendar. Or go to my calendar at fillinthegaps.as.me, as well as for those that do not know, Audible's continuing to partner with my YouTube videos on my podcast. So if you want to support me as well as support them, go to my Audible affiliate link at www.audibletrial.com/fillinthegaps. Sign up for the 30-day free trial, and from the bottom of my heart, appreciate every single one of you guys that have already done that. And Audible is an easy way to get information on the go. So if you're busy just like me and you still want to be able to become the best possible version of yourself, Audible is an easy way to do so. And if you're like, Phil, I want to rep and rock with you, again, go to my Audible affiliate link at www.audibletrial.com/fillinthegaps. Sign up for the 30-day free trial. There are a couple books that I would recommend: The Alchemist, The Archer, UOU, and Outliers. Each of them have different lessons and blessings that can not help you just progress professionally, but also personally, to become the best possible version of yourself. And if you haven't already, hit the thumbs up button down below, which is the thumbs up button next to the title. It helps other amazing social workers just like you find my videos as well. And do me a favor, leave a comment down below, anything that you're going through or anything that you're finding helpful about the videos, or anything that somebody says in this video, because it helps other amazing social workers just like you to build a community, as well as I try to answer as many comments as I possibly can. And as well as, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below, hit the bell notification next to it, because it allows for you to notify yourself every time that I upload a video. And the next video that I'm going to be uploading is a practice question session, as well as a free study group that's coming up, so you don't want to miss any of those. And if you haven't already, check out my podcast at Fill in the Gaps on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify, because it gives you other pieces of information to continue progressing, become the best possible version of yourself. And from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate every single one of you guys that is repping and rocking with me and doing everything that you can to become the best possible version of yourself. And whether the ASWB is going to change the exam, or whether you're unsure of what's going to go on within your career, continue doing the next right thing for yourself. And a couple of thoughts that I've been having is giving yourself the opportunity to learn at the same pace that other people are. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times when we're going through situations, we tend to criticize ourselves, or we tend to demean ourselves and focus on the negative versus the positive. So a phrase that I was thinking about how I can help people as well as myself is, after an experience you have, do your best to reflect on the entire experience and resist the urge to deflect the positive. So reflect means to think and examine something with an open mind, while deflect is like, bye, I'm going to kick you out of the situation. So it's pushing something away. In addition to that, way too often we seek criticism and become destructive, when the best thing that we can do is seek feedback and become constructive. Destructive, destroying everything around you. Constructive, you're constructing and building something that may not be there or supplementing something that is already there. And why this is important is because this will allow for you to go back and begin constructing who we need to be going forward. And a lot of people that I've been talking to lately are like, man, Phil, I failed this exam before, or man, Phil, I'm not sure what I should be doing, or man, is this really the best path for me? Or man, Phil, I failed the exam by 1 point, 2 points, 3 points. Man, what if I fail again? Or man, I'm not even sure if I'm studying the right things, or I'm getting way too many questions wrong. I should be getting more right. Or man, am I really able to do this at this moment in my life? Or man, am I too old? Or man, I have learning disability. Or man, I have tension to have hyperactivity disorder. Or man, I have anxiety. I have post-traumatic stress disorder. I have depression. I've not gotten to that point to where I want to be. And it's like, I hear you at that moment. I do. However, what is the positive side of all of the things that you've been through? Because if you've been in the exam before, you don't just have all doom and gloom unless you got 0 questions right. And again, if you got 0 questions right, I ain't coming at you. But at the point in time, if you failed this exam, you've gotten questions correct. So there is some point in time where you are executing and you're understanding and dissecting and destroying the exam. However, a lot of times when we don't do what we want to do, or we're not doing what we think we should do, or we're comparing ourselves to someone else, or we're looking over here, we're oftentimes criticizing ourselves. And we think of criticism, we think of somebody that's focusing on all of the things that we're not doing. And again, I looked it up. I was like, man, what is criticism? Because I don't want to ever lie to you guys. And criticism is where somebody's literally just focusing on the thing that you're not doing. That's it. They're just like, you know what? You're not doing da 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 da. And again, if you think about that, that's what we do to ourselves. And again, I'm not generalizing, but speaking from my experience and a lot of people that I talk to, when we don't do something we want to do, we're writing an entire diss track about ourselves and demeaning ourselves and saying everything that we haven't done and what we should have been doing and da 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 da. And then I was like, you know what? We often hear constructive criticism. So what is that? It's like, well, constructive criticism is still focusing in on the things that you're not doing, but then also giving you things that you can do in the future. And I was like, well, isn't that just feedback? And then I look up the word feedback, and yeah, feedback is where you're focusing on the things you're not doing, but also looking for a solution. Because a lot of times when we're criticizing ourselves, we're not finding a solution. We're looking at the problem. We're literally just like problem, 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 problem. But if you look at feedback, it's like, man, we can look at the problem. That's cool. But at the same time, now that you've had these things occur, now that you're in this experience, what will you do going forward? But the problem is a lot of us don't get to that solution focused mode. Again, getting critical within them, or relating back to the exam. Interventions, solution focus is you're identifying a quick quality of life improvement in order to improve something. But at the problem center of it, when we're in the problem, it's so hard for us to even think about a possible solution at that moment. So if you're in that criticism mode of demeaning and destroying and tearing yourself down, you are not going to be able to become the best possible version of yourself, not because you don't have it inside of you, or not because you're not uniquely gifted and talented or have the skills and abilities, but it's because you are, every time that something's not going right, you're throwing a grenade in the basement and blowing it up. However, if we examine the situation, what worked, what did not work, what are some things that you did that you would not have done going forward, we're now coming up to a more informed decision in more of a constructive mode of building you up with where you're at, with supplementing and strengthening the things that are working and cutting ties with the lives we've been living in with the things that are not working. Because if you're seeking feedback, you're getting information about the problem, but a lot of us hear the problem and we think that somebody is demeaning us and tearing us down. But with that mode, if you have people you trust, or if you're around the right environment, you are able to examine the problem with an open mind, but you know that there are going to be solutions to the problem versus just being like, it's never going to happen for me. Or, man, I'm not getting as many questions right as I want to. Or, man, I don't understand this. Okay, well, if you don't understand it, or if you're not getting things right, or if you're not doing the correct things, what is missing? Literally, what is missing in the process? Because we can't go to the ASWB and be like, man, can you give that person that point back? Or, man, can you give them that 3, 4, 5 points back? But what we can do is, what did I do in the exam? What are some things that I wish I would have not done? Did I second guess? Did I add? Did I take away? Or am I telling myself, you know what, you're probably not going to pass this exam because you failed it in the past? But at the same time, if we're working with clients and they've gone through some things and they're trying to work through some of the things they've been to become the best possible version of themselves and to get to that next level, but we can see it inside of them, but we can't see it inside of ourselves, there's a problem. Because if we can see a solution and we're able to examine things and give feedback versus being critical and criticizing somebody or demeaning somebody or destroying them, but when it comes to us, it's like, all right, I'm writing that diss track, or man, I'm tearing this person down, or man, I'm not even sure if they can even progress. We wouldn't make it in this field. But that's the problem, is you need to start taking your own advice and you need to start viewing your situation from a more objective perspective. Subjective, you're up in your feelings and subjecting yourself to the destructive thought process. Feedback, you're taking yourself back to where you were, opening your eyes and understanding what you need, feeding your soul, and then getting to where you need to be and building yourself up versus tearing yourself down and demeaning and destroying and tearing your entire process up. Because I've worked with people, amazing, gifted, and talented social workers, but when it comes to the exam, they're folding like a lawn chair or a deck of cards because they're like, you know what, I just don't know what I'm doing this exam. I don't believe that you don't know what you're doing. I believe that you know what you're doing. It's just you become so reclused, or you become so self-correcting or self-policing that you don't even want to see the end result because you're trying to protect yourself from something that is outside of your control. Because you may be getting the question right, but you're like, well, I'm going to change it to this because I'm probably wrong. We don't know what you're going to do until you go into that exam being 100% you. And that's what I'm telling you. After you go through an experience, do your best to reflect on the entire process. Don't just look at the doom and gloom. Don't just look at the fact that you failed, but what led you to that point. What are some strategies and techniques or things that you did that may not have been as helpful? Or maybe there's some things that you could have done that you didn't have time for, or you didn't think that were a priority back in the past. We can take that and feed yourself into the future and get yourself to that next level. But if you're not open to it, or if you're defensive, or you're trying to destroy everything that you've had in your path, or if somebody's giving you feedback and they have your best interest in mind, but you're ready to fight them and say, you know what, you don't know, or da-da-da-da-da, you're taking yourself out of the spaces and places that you deserve. Because at this point in time, in order for you to get to where you're at right now, you've had to have trust somebody. At some point in time, you had to have been given information that you didn't previously have in order to become the version that you are today. But as social workers, we oftentimes want to build other people up, but when we're not perfect, we're ready to tear them down. So practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes permanent. So the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So the goal is to continue progressing forward, never to be perfect. So you can be in a destination that you feel comfortable in, but if you're not trying to progress, or if you're not trying to do that next right thing for yourself, then what is the purpose of all of this? So that's my push for you, is don't just go through something, grow through it, but also know that if you're not to where you want to be, that it doesn't mean that's where you're always going to be at. But if you're not willing to take a shot, or if you're not willing to take that chance, who is willing to? If not you, who? If not now, when? But at the end of the day, if you go into the exam and do something different than you thought that what you should be doing, what influenced that? Like, what made you think that you were not uniquely gifted and talented in your own right to become the best possible version of yourself? Like, what led you to that point? And really reflect on that. And it may be painful. It may be something that you're like, man, why do I even need to be doing this stuff? It's just an exam. No, the exam is making you examine who you thought that you should be and recognize who you actually are and what is actually needed to become that best possible version of yourself. But if you're in that mode where you're like, you know what, I don't need to grow, I don't need to change, I don't need to make anything different, then what do we expect other people to do? Do you expect your clients? Do you expect people around you to just be the same person who they are every single day of their life? No, we want them to continue to grow. We want them to continue to know different things, and we want them to continue to nurture themselves up. And we want them to construct things and build things and not destroy them. And sometimes we do have to destroy who we once were in order to make space for who we are today. But if we don't give ourselves that ability, if we don't give ourselves that opportunity to recognize the positives or the blessings and the lessons that we have, we're never going to get there. Because if you've been in the social work field for X amount of years, or if you've taken the exam X amount of times, you want to ask yourself, who was I back then? Who was I? What was I doing? What is different now? And what do I need right now that I didn't know that I needed back then? But now that I'm in this situation, I actively can now make the decision to either construct or destruct. And again, a lot of us like to self-destruct and just destroy ourselves before we even finish because we don't want anyone else to say anything about us. But the goal is to never be criticized, or the goal is to never have feedback. The goal is for you to receive feedback, decipher through it, and understand what do I need and what don't I need, and discard in the rest. So that way you can continue to feed your soul to become the best possible version of yourself. But if you're in that mode where anyone that you hear criticism or you hear feedback from somebody, you're shutting it down and you're like, you know what, I don't need that. Or man, what I'm doing is actually working. But if it's not working, you have to be open to willing to take that chance to do something different. Because in order for you to get to different spaces and places, you need to be doing different things to articulate and become a different version of yourself. So you're not the same version that you were when you were an undergrad. You're not the same version that you were when you were in grad school. You're not the same version that you were when you just got out of grad school. You're not the same version that you were when you first took the exam. You're not the same version of yourself when you took the exam multiple times. Wherever your experience is at, but your experience is valuable nonetheless. So don't take anything away from yourself just to make yourself fit into a mold that was never meant for you. And if you need to learn in a different way, or if you need to understand in a different way, that's okay. You need to run your own race to become who you're supposed to be. And you need to give yourself grace like you would give a client, like you'd give a friend, you'd give a family member, like you'd give anyone that you know and that you care about, because you need to care about where you're at. You need to care about who you once were. You need to care about who you're becoming, because the only person that knows truly who you're going to become is yourself, because you're the only person that can make the decisions that can get you to the spaces and places that you deserve to be in. But if you continue to be in the same spot, or if you continue to do the same things, you're going to continue to get the same results and not be able to grow to become the best possible version of yourself. So that's what I'm telling you. After you have an experience, do your best to reflect on the entire experience and resist the urge to deflect the positives. Because way too many times I'm talking to people, they're willing to shut down things that weren't. They're willing to shut down positive experiences about themselves. They're willing to shut down their own social work experience. They're willing to shut down anything that could possibly give them credit or possibly recognize how amazingly gifted and talented they are. And they're willing to write a highlight reel about all the negative things that they've ever done, because they think that everyone is looking at them as critically as they're looking at themselves. But get curious. Don't get critical. Become curious and try to understand, versus be like, you know what? I can't stand this exam. I'm out. I'm going to go under and never come out because I'm never going to become licensed. And that's not the truth. You need to remind yourself that we need to seek out feedback so we can go back to who we once were, feed our souls, become who we're supposed to be, and identify what's that next right thing for me. Because way too often we seek criticism and become destructive, when the best thing that we can do is seek feedback and become constructive. Because if something didn't work the way that you wanted it to, don't destroy the entire process and don't throw the entire thing out, but build it up, supplement it, polish it up, make some changes, critique it, and build it up to the best possible version that you can possibly do it, because this will allow for us to go back and begin constructing what we needed to do in order to become the best possible versions of ourselves. So that's what I'm telling you. Give yourself that grace. Give yourself that kindness. Give yourself that opportunity. Give yourself that willingness. Take your shot on yourself. Because if your friend was getting ready to take the exam, or if your partner, if your child, or all these different people were getting ready to do something new, you'd be willing to stoke them up like a fire, and you'd be willing to write an entire motivational speech just for them, and you'd be willing to do things for them that you're not willing to do for yourself. Or if you're not willing to build yourself up, or if you're not willing to stoke your own fire, if you're not willing to recognize all of those things, you're the only person that's going to be in the exam room with yourself. So that's what I'm telling you is, give yourself that opportunity. Take that shot. Don't self-police. Don't tear yourself down. Don't get destructive, but get constructive, and build yourself up. Do that next right thing and become the best possible version of yourself. So hopefully that was helpful for at least one person. And like I said, if you found this video helpful, hit the thumbs up button down below. Comment something down below that maybe I've said, or maybe something that's going to be going on in the rest of the video that you found helpful. Hit the subscribe button down below. Hit the bell notification next to it. You need anything, drop me a shout. Send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. I appreciate every single one of you guys. And from the bottom of my heart, without you guys, there's no me. I love every single one of you guys. You need anything, drop me a shout, send me an email, and I do my absolute best to get back to you and do everything that I possibly can. The rest of this video is me talking to people that only failed by a couple of points or a few points, and their test is coming up soon, and I give them ideas and different pieces of motivation to go in the exam, kick it directly in the chest to get the job done. And like I said, I love every single one of you guys. You need anything, drop me a shout, send me an email. I'll see you guys in the next video, and keep doing the next right thing. I'll try doing the next right thing for myself, and keep doing the next right thing, building yourself up, not letting one thought, one situation, one person take you outside of know what you know to be true. I love every single one of you guys. I'm getting out of here, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. In peace out, guys.
Failed 6 weeks ago by 1 point and take it again Monday. Did well on the practice test, 113. Needed 97 and only missed 37 total.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, how's it going? How's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm trying my best. So what's cooking?
So I took it March 16th, and I'm in Alabama. And so when I applied, I graduated last year, and when I applied, I got a like temporary license for like a year to be able to get a job because I'm a hospice social worker. And I don't know if it's everywhere, but in Alabama, you have to have an LMSW to be in the medical field. So that ends the end of June. Well, also, I was pregnant with twins last year and thought that I could take my test in August, and I was delusional. Then thought I could take it in October on maternity leave, again, delusional. Then thought I could take it in December, right after going back to work, and again, delusional. And then the other social worker quit. So I had our full caseload of like 100 people. And so I was like, no, I'm going to take it. And basically just told work, I need to focus on me and get this done. And I have the same problem that I think everybody's had since we've been in middle school is second guessing ourselves. And when I did the practice test the first time, I didn't like hit a lot of that review button. But when I did it in the test, I hit review on like all of them. And so I think I second guessed myself and changed a lot of answers. And I even changed the last question, which I don't know if it counted or not, but I literally needed 98 and got 97. And I was so like defeated. And so I started the process literally in the parking lot of getting approval to take it before 90 days because I knew myself and I needed to like take it sooner rather than later. And I started listening to your stuff like a week or two before the test. And that's why when I was studying this time, I didn't pick anything else up new. I literally went back to just doing questions, watching more of your videos, and not picking a new way of studying because obviously I know the stuff. It's just breaking down the questions. So I did like one of the classes, which was like CBT and all those, bought an old one-day course, and then literally just been binge watching your YouTube videos from like 2 years ago, like all the time. So I'm hoping it's all worked because I test Monday around at noon.
So let's play devil's advocate for a second. You said, I hope it has worked. What would make it not work?
If I failed again, because I have 4 kids, a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, and 8-month-old twins. So I've sacrificed so much time from them that I can't do it anymore. Like I've given up so much time that it's like, it's just becoming too much where I'm just having it like not only working full time plus working like 50 hours a week, I'm having to study. And I have done what a couple other people said is I studied less. Instead of studying for like 8 hours, I studied for like 3 or 4. And I feel like I get more out of it. But it's just, I feel like I keep giving up so much time with them. And also, I mean, my job is the meditation too.
And I think the biggest thing that you have to remind yourself is you were close. You were close, you were close, and you were close. And that's where I think you got to get outside of that, of digging deep prior to your exam and saying, why do I want to second guess myself? Like, why? And it's not that you don't know it. It's something inside of you is telling you that you cannot complete the task on your own. And I don't think that's the truth. I think it is a thought that was planted inside of you early, like you said, in middle school at some point, and it's never left. And you've succeeded in everything that you've done, but that voice never left. So that is where you have to grab that voice by the neck and snap it. So that way you can snap the neck of the exam. You have to be willing to sit yourself down and say, why is this happening? In order for me to get past that. And it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do to kill that voice inside of you that says, I'm not enough and I need to go against myself. But the biggest thing that you can do for those children is not view it as that you've taken time away from them, but you've bought time in the future to spend with them. Because once you get that license, it's gone. Like once you get that license, the doors just fly open like the wind is blowing outside. It's whoosh. And when you have that control of your own life, by getting the license, you've not taken time away from them. You've shown them what hard work looks like. You've shown them that failing is an option in life, but you don't have to make it be a permanent option. It's not everything goes how you plan it to, but as long as you do not give up on yourself and you do not beat up on yourself, you will succeed. And that's where I think framing it of like, damn, I'm not where I want to be and it's all me. It's I didn't have the right material or I didn't have the right skills and talents in my bank. Now I do. I am going to destroy this exam so much that I'm going to have a fun time in the exam now, because you're in the best position, but also one of the worst positions. And I say that best position because the strategies and techniques, when you're utilizing them, they work. They work. You've perfected it. You're like, this works. But you're in the worst position because you've convinced yourself that it doesn't work. So that's what you have to settle is, I need to give 100% of myself in the exam. I passed the practice exam, but I'm too afraid to give myself credit because I failed in the past on the real exam. And that's why I always tell people, do not let the practice exam dictate you emotionally. So I only tell people to take the practice exam for 2 reasons. Oftentimes people think I'm crazy because the biggest reason why people like to take the practice exam is to see whether they're right or wrong or ready or not. That's not why I have people take it. I have people take the practice exam for 1, to see if the process works and their comfortability and consistency with it. You did that part. You're like, whew, and then you're surprised that you passed it. And then the second reason is to see if you can sit there or stand for 4 hours and assure that you can get the job done. You've done both of those things, but you have to push past that third thing of this dictates whether I'm going to pass or fail, or this previous exam. So the strategies and techniques that you've done, they work. They work. They work. And that's why I said you're in the best position, because there are people that will listen to this and say, I wish I could pass the practice exam. I wish I had the comfortability. I wish that I was in this position. So that's where you have to spin it around and say, I am going to destroy it on Monday, and it's not going to stop me. The only thing that can stop me is me. And if I go to second guess myself, almost have a nice laugh in my head and say, that's who I once was, I'm staying on the path. I'm catching myself in this, and this is about to be fun. And I'm not going to go in overconfident that this should work out for me based on who I am, but I am going to view every single question as a minute or a year that I get back with my children. Every single question I am going to view as the question that's going to help me pass the test. But I'm going to give myself grace and know that I can get 44 to 54 wrong and still pass. So every single question is an opportunity for you to pass, but every single question is not going to be 100%, and that's okay. Because if we aggregate the scores in percentages that you have to get on the actual exam to pass, it is somewhere between 65% and 70 point whatever percent. So we'll round it up to 71%, and you'll pass. So that's where do not let the little things take you out, and focus and be intentional and deliberate. So if it is helpful, reminding yourself every single question, I'm not going to second guess, and I'm going to meet the question where it's at. That's it. And it may sound weird. Why am I going to say this 170 times? Because every single question is going to try and punk your mind out and convince you that you're not supposed to be there. And that's where you have to look it in the face and say, I deserve to be here. You've put me through enough. I'm tired of it. And you've made this little voice inside of me amplified, and I'm going to take the control back. I'm done with it, and I'm going to destroy you because you've destroyed me enough, and I'm done suffering. That's what you have to look at it and say, this is what I need to do on this exam.
That's right. And when I did the practice, I changed 2 things. I actually got up every 30 questions and we'll do that with my test. And then also I kind of, to use the whiteboard imaging, I kind of had like a column of like, if I really just don't know it, I'm not even going to answer it and hit review. I'm just not going to answer it. And then there's some that I was like, go back and look at, but it was like 5. But it was like, don't go back, just know it and keep moving. And it seemed to help more with the practice when I did that than in the break, like the every 30 questions, like getting up.
And that's what you need to do during the real exam. Every single time that you're wanting to do those things, do them. And if you're like, yikes, I practiced and needed it 30, it may be 25, giving yourself that grace of 25. Being fluid, because way too many times, I see a lot of times plan, but I always tell people the plan that their plan is not going to work. And not so much so that, oh my gosh, I'm not really going to be able to get in there. But in my wilder days, I'm still wild, so don't worry. But in my wilder days, I used to tell people to plan that the roof is going to fall in on you. Like, you plan that the roof is going to fall in or the building's going to catch on fire. So that way, if the roof falls in, you climb under the desk, wait for the debris to stop falling down on you. And then once the coast is clear, making sure the computer's not crushed, finishing your exam and crushing it. The building catches on fire, prepare in your mind how I'm going to run out, time it so that way they put it out, but I'm ready to tell them I'm finishing my exam today because I'm done. Those are the things you got to plan. And of course, those are extreme, so I hope those don't happen to you. But that's where I feel like a lot of times people go in rigid and they're like, oh my gosh, I plan to do this, but I'm going against that. Asking yourself, is this helping me pass or is this hurting me? Because if I'm waiting 60 questions to do what I told myself at question 30, why? Why did I feel that I had an extra 30 in me? And if it's positive and you feel good, you're in a better position. But if you're like, I'm restricting myself because I don't feel I deserve it, that's out. Because you have to stay with what you know.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be able to help. And if you need anything, just drop me a shout. But definitely send me an email because I'll let you in the Sunday group tomorrow as my guest because I want to help.
I appreciate it.
Of course, of course. I have taken the CSW exam 4 times, and the last time I missed it by 3 points.
All right. Yes, that's me.
How's it going? How's it going?
It's going good. Just trying to get motivated again to start studying.
Okay. And what do you think is causing you to lack motivation right now?
A lot of it just frustrated with the test itself, I think. So I take it June 22nd again. And so I don't know, like just like the girl before me, she was talking about like her kids and stuff, and I kind of feel the same way with like I haven't been in my kids' life very much as I would like to. And being a single mom, it's kind of hard with 3 kids. And so, I don't know. And then my work has changed since my temporary license expired. With not being licensed, I can only do groups, so I'm down to part-time hours. And then I've had to move back in with my parents so that because I couldn't afford to live on my own anymore. So it's just been very frustrating, like this test. I've thought about trying to get another job, but I'm like, well, I need to focus on the test itself. So I know that's where I'm at right now.
And I guess how much processing have you done around this? Because it seems like you've lost a lot of things and are being really hard on yourself regarding them.
Yeah, I'm seeing a therapist to like kind of process through a lot of it. It's been difficult though. So I think I'm still processing through it.
And the biggest piece of advice I could give is that today it may seem like there's a lot lost, but it's not over. And you can gain everything back, if not more, because as long as you have a heartbeat in your chest, you have purpose, you have drive, you have passion, and today is just a part and a piece of that puzzle, and you can change it to whatever it wants to be. And this exam is a big thing to do, but from my experience, if people have failed it in the past, or they're losing a lot of things around them, or they have that pent-up energy inside of them, letting that go, because it's heavy. It's so heavy to carry around everything that you thought you were going to have, or things that you used to have, and embracing with what you have today and getting it going. Does that make sense?
Definitely. I've been like trying to do like meditations to like let go, and with letting go from a lot of the different things, it's going to take some time to let go of everything to move on.
And that's okay. That's the thing, is being okay with it being okay. I feel like a lot of times, whether it's society or ourselves being influenced by society, we feel that we have to be certain people or accomplish certain things at certain like timestamps, if you will. But that's not always the case. That's not always the case that we have to be in certain points or maintain certain things or that fluidity isn't acceptable. Does that make sense? And I'm not just saying that to say it. I have those expectations for myself all the time. Like, and I don't really speak a ton about it, but I'm the first person in my family that's ever really gone to college. And that whole process, when you don't have role models and things telling you what you particularly need to do, is tough.
Yeah.
And of course, the college experience, like I've talked about it before, but I only went to school and college because there was a teacher that said, Phil, I think you can do this. So then I applied to the same school that she went to because I was like, well, if she's amazing and empowering people, they must empower amazing people at college. So then once you get into the big leagues, if you will, quote unquote college, you then have to start writing papers. But my language is not my art, if you will. So when I was in college, I went to the writing center every single day. Every single day I went to the writing center that first year because I didn't want to fail.
Yeah.
And imagine being in class, other people are articulate, they're utilizing language, they're writing papers, they're killing the game. Me, I was like, man, I can't show my cards. I really can't tell people that I'm not good at this. So then I went to the writing center, and then over time, again, doubting myself, I wasn't really confident within it. But then people started asking me questions about it. But also, I had to set aside where I thought I needed to be. Because imagine the expectation of being the only person that has ever gone to college in your family and then doing well. And all that pressure of like, man, you need to be doing this. And then the haywire stuff that my upbringing brought, because it's not always the best. But I'm not really going to get into that. But when it segues over into that, afterwards, having that self-doubt that has always been implemented in me of like, well, you're not doing enough. You need to be doing more. You need to accomplish things in order to be accepted. It fuels a monster. Because then, after a while, if you don't settle with, I'm only X amount of years old, and I shouldn't have everything figured out, do you start actually embracing who you are? So I think that's where recalibrating your expectations is important.
Okay, I'll do that.
But also giving yourself the grace, giving yourself the grace of like, man, there's other people that are telling me I should be doing this or I should be doing that. But what do I feel I need to be doing today?
Okay.
And why do I feel compelled to pick up another job in order to get this done?
Yeah, because like I don't really want to do that because my job, they're rooting for me. They actually paid for two private tutoring sessions with you. And so I'm really excited about that. And they have faith with me, and they've paid for the TDC program for me as well at one point, and that helped me, but not completely. And then when I took it last time, my test, I found your videos on YouTube, and I started watching them about 3 weeks before I took my last test. And then I was just like, screw the TDC stuff. I'm just going to focus on this because I felt like a connection. It made sense to me the way that you have talked in your videos. And I did a few study groups. I paid for the 1-day course, and that really helped me too, I think. It's just towards the end of my test, I felt like I was running out of time. And so I started rushing through questions because I looked at the time and I'm like, shoot, I have more questions than I have time right now. And so I started rushing through questions, which probably wasn't the best thing for me.
And it seems like a lot of people are there to support you. And I think embracing that, because a lot of times it's difficult for us to see the greatness inside of ourselves. But if people around you are consistently showing you that you are great, I think walking in that.
Yeah.
And if you're like, Phil, timing was the biggest thing for me, we can work on that. Because if you think you can pass, you can definitely execute on that level of like, how do I speed this up? But a lot of times people try speeding it up without the practice in between. So through us working together and practicing, and I would recommend definitely looking back at the 1-day course and slowing it down and saying, does this make sense for me? And if it does, how do I get it faster without destroying my confidence or the efficacy of me being able to pass?
Okay.
But you're exactly where you need to be. You are. And I can't say it enough. I think you're in a better position than you think and that you actually see today.
Yeah, definitely. We're our own worst critics.
Of course, especially when you're like, man, I'm on my back and I did not think that my back was going to be against the wall. I thought everything that was difficult would be to my back, but now it's to my front and now I have to confront them.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
All right. Well, if you have any questions or anything, just drop me a shout and we'll go from there.
All right. Thanks, Phil.
It's my pleasure.